In this video, I'm going to explain a number of VBA functions that can be useful when you are wanting to manipulate text. And the functions that we're going to use, I have listed here. The length function, what that will do is it will tell you how many characters are in a string. Count will do the very same thing. Left allows you to pluck off a number of characters off the left end of the string. Right lets you grab characters off the right end of a string. The mid function will let you go into the middle of the string, like these middle 5 characters here, and just pull some things out of the middle of a string. The split function will let you take something that looks like this, or anything that has something to separate it. So for example, we have first and last name separated by a space. What the split function will do is it will allow these to be split up by whatever character you tell it is the splitting character. We have uppercase and lowercase. This will take whatever text you feed it and convert it into uppercase or lowercase. And then we also are going to do some concatenation where we say, all right, there's the name and she works at a given office and so forth. And so these are the functions that we're going to use. Now, we're going to get the data that we're going to collect this from is all going to be from these 3 columns. So this is the name, this is the city where they work, and then this is the employee identification number. If we scroll down here, you can see that this goes down about 130 rows. And so we're just going to clear this out. So what we're going to do is I've made 2 copies. I've made an example row which shows how we're going to take and count and pull out aspects of the text and so forth, manipulate the text. I have created a duplicate of row 4 and row 5, so as our script runs, we can see whether it produces what we want to produce. Now I've created a subroutine that I've just given a name, string me, and then what I've done is I've declared variables for the strings that for each of these 3 values. So we have a name string, a city string, and an employee ID string. I've also created a range. What that range is going to be is it's going to be starting right here and then go down to the bottom of this. And so I've said, all right, I'm going to have a range named ename as a range. I'm going to create a little array that is going to contain the names that are being produced by this split function, and that is a variant. And then I have an O row as an integer, and what that's going to do is as we move down each record, it's going to allow me to conveniently write the contents out on the right record. And then I created a for each loop. So the for each loop, what it allows you to do is it allows you to go to the beginning of a section or a range, and it will look at every single record, every single item in the range, and allow you to work through them until it gets down to the bottom. Now I've defined this where we have at the beginning of the range is the active cell. So as this script comes in, it will select the sandbox tab. All right, it activates that tab. Then it goes to A5, which you see it's activated here. And then it says, all right, we're going to be wanting to write out to this very same row. So I've set O row equals to 5. And then for the for each loop, I've got it set up so that the items in there are going to be called ename. And then I start at the active cell, which is A5, and then here we go to A5 again, which is the active cell, and go all the way down until we hit the very last value in the rows below. So that's sort of like a quick setup for what we're going to do, and now the chores we're going to do are going to be inside this loop. So now we're going to work on each record. The first thing we need to do is we need to get these values out of these columns or out of these cells. So let's do that now. So name equals ename. This dot value is implied. So we could also do it just like that, and that will be the same thing as if we had put a dot value on the back there. And then we're going to put the city there. And what we're going to do here is we're going to do an offset here. So we'll go ename, and then we're going to want to go over 1 column and get that value. We're moving to the right of the name to get the city and loading that in there. And then we'll do the very same thing with EID. So to go faster, I'm just going to copy that down there and just change the few little things that we need to change. And so that's going to go to ename, and then it'll offset over 2, and it will get the value out of the EID right there. So we've loaded the values out of these cells into variables. All right, now we need to start doing things with these variables. Let's set it up so that we're writing into the right column on the right row. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use the cells operator here. So we'll go cells and then O row, and we're wanting to copy this into D, column D. So we'll put D there. and then we're going to say is going to be the length of name. So what this will do is the little length function will take the number of characters in name, and it will write those into the D. So it will give us this value here. Another way to do a very similar thing is we can also use the character count operator, and that will also work. So we're going to do this in E, but out here, and we're going to change this, and we're going to say it's going to be the E name characters count. So what that will do is that is going to do the same thing. It will say, all right, E name in this case is going to be Ann Hannah, and then it's got the characters that will count, and it will count the number of characters in there. And so we should get, when I run this, it should give us a 9 here and a 9 here. Continuing on, the next one that we want to do, we want to take the left 2 characters off of name. So, and we're going to put that in the F column. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to say left, oops, I type here, left name. And we've got to say, with this particular method, we have to say how many characters we want. So we put a comma there, and it will take the 2. All right, now we want to take the right 2 characters off of EID, which is going to be this PR right here. So we'll do something very similar here, and EID, and we're going to take the right 2 characters off of EID. And now let's take the middle characters. If you look at this EID, you'll notice that we have an ID here that's basically throwaway characters. It's sort of like just duplicated all the way down. We have the real employee ID number, and then we have the abbreviated value of the city. So these last 3 characters aren't helpful in the first 2 characters. We want to go to the 3rd character in the string and take 5 characters out of it. And so the way to do that is to use the mid function. So we will use the mid function to do that. And what the mid function does, when you do the mid, you say, which character are we going to start on? We're going to start on 3 and take 5. You've got to give it the string to parse stuff from. Move this right back up here now that I've fixed it, and run that again. And yes, it did it. So I forgot to put this EID in the string there for it to work. I'm going to go ahead and get out of this now because we're going to add some more things in. So I'm going to get out of the debugging mode and go in and put in some other stuff in here. So the next thing we want to do is we want to use the split function. What the VBA split function does is it takes a string and you can tell it what the splitting character actually is. So now we're going to put this in. So we're going to say names array. This is just something that I declared as an array up here. So names array is equal to split. There's our function, split. And then we have to tell it what to split. So what we want to do is we're going to split name, and then we're going to split it with a blank space. So basically it says, all right, here's the string I'm going to split. I'm going to look for that blank space, the space between the first name and the second name, and I will perform the split. Now when it does that, it's going to make an array. And so let's go down and just actually show you do the array here. Let's get down to the split. So now what it did is it made an array, names array. And then in names array 0, it's Ann. In names array, in the 0 position, it's the first name, and in the first position, it is Hannah. So these things are now, so this little split function created this names array and loaded the values out of the first name and the last name in the names array. All right, so now to be able to get those out of there, then we have to reference those specific positions in the array. So let's go ahead and bring this down and make a copy just to save ourselves some typing. And then let's go call the things out of the array and write those in where we want them to be written. All right, so now we're going to want to write these in I. So let's go change this to I. And now let's go call the things out of the array. So what we want to do here is names array position 0, and then we want to copy that and into J we're going to take position 1. All right, so we're going to have our first name and our last name are going to be written into these fields, and this is how you do it. We call the array, and we have the index of the array, and then it can take the value out of those and load those in to those. So that's how that works. All right. Now, the other thing that we want to do is now that that will work, we also want to take the name and do an uppercase and lowercase on that. So let's do that next. And that's going to be K follows J. So we're going to say uppercase, and then we're going to do a lowercase name. So now if we go and run down to this point, so I'm going to stop here, go up and kind of run the debugger down through, and we're going to make sure that those lower pieces work. So we know that the split works. The array is loaded, and then it loaded the 2 values out of the array. And let's see if it does our upper and our lower case like it should. So that's good. So that's working fine. All right. So then what we need to do at this point then is we need to do our concatenated sentence. So here, let's get this scrolled over so we can see how the sentence should be written. So it's going to take this value right here, and it's going to put these in, and it says works at the, and then we're going to want to put in the provo office. And so we're going to want to put in the city in here. So let's go ahead and write that. So what we want is we want this. It's going to be M, and this is going to be name ampersand quote space works at the space ampersand, and we call that city ampersand base office, period. I'll move this back up here now. If we've done this correctly, then we should be able to write that in. See if I did it correctly. Yep, and Hannah works at the provo office. All right, so that's looking good. All right, so what we've done at this point is it looks like we're ready to go and let this run a few records. So I'm going to just run the debugger through a few records just to make sure that everything is continuing to work as it should. And then we can let the script finish. So let's go and just do a few records here, keep myself on there. So that all looks good. Everything looks as it should. And so we can finish the script and let it finish all the way down to the bottom. That's an example of using these functions to be able to process this information the way we want. Now there's one other thing you're going to notice, and that is if we go back over here, what we have here is we have a problem, because what we have is we have Luca Elias is in lowercase. So we haven't solved our case problems, and Harry is in uppercase. So our script is working, but there's still one little wrinkle we need to work out, and that is we would like to be able to have these be in a proper case. So looks like we better do one little wrinkle here that will allow us to do that. And I'm going to show you how to do that. The way we can do that is by using a proper name. So, and we can use a worksheet function to do that. So one of the things we can do is we can say, in fact, let's just make it easy up here. Why don't we do it up here? Let's do under name. Let's take name. So remember now, we've taken the name, which is going to be of various cases right here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to overwrite that name with something that we've taken control of and used proper case. So we're going to use a worksheet function, because Excel has a worksheet function that just does this called proper. So by going worksheet function proper and then name, what will happen is that if it doesn't start with the first letter of the names uppercase, it will fix it. Let's go and just sort of make sure. And so we'll go down here, and if we look at name, when we get down and we load that, there's Ann Hannah, and she's looking fine, but we're going to go down to the next one and see if it handles Luca, because Ann Hannah was already in the proper case. Let's go down and get Luca's name. So now we should have Luca Elias. Well, when Luca Elias was brought in, at first it was, in fact, let's go back up here and do this. Let's take the name again and bring it in. There's Luca Elias, lowercase, which isn't what we want, but now we're going to take the lowercase version, run it through the proper function, and it will convert it up to the proper function. So that's fine. So now I've solved the problem of the cases not being correct, and so I can go and just get rid of this space. We don't need it, because when it gets down here and starts using the names, then the names are in the proper case. Now that I'm satisfied that that is working as it should, I'll let the script run through, and now all of these are correct. Now let's go just check. So we knew Luca was right. Here's Harry, and now Harry is in proper case too. And if we roll this over so we can see a little bit better, then that script is giving us the sentences that we want. So all of these are in the correct case. So this little script isn't very long, but it does a good job of doing all of the parsing that needs to be done to get the things cleaned up that we want cleaned up. Looks like I can line it up and make it a little prettier. All right, so that's an example of how we use these functions to be able to manipulate and pull pieces of text apart